Oh my God, I feel like I've learned a lot. I've been doing a lot of self-educating over the past month now. I've learned a lot, which is great. One thing I've learned is that people honestly really need to stop saying that the system is broken, the system is broken. The system's not broken, the system's working exactly how it's supposed to, which it was created to hold people down. So it's working how it was created. What we need to do is exactly like Don just said, we need to create a new system. Truly, that is the number one thing that needs to happen. But to Dean's point, like, I don't know if that's going to actually happen in our lifetime, which sucks. I, it's, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And as far as news is concerned, the number one thing I've learned is that, like, trying to educate specifically like the older white folks in my life on like kind of what's going on, why the riots are happening, why the looting is happening, the feedback I always get is like, but the news doesn't show anything bad happening. Yeah. And it's the number one thing I feel like everyone needs to do is really take advantage of the beast that is social media in these moments, and really educate our elders on the fact that, like, hey, if you want to see what's actually going on, go on Twitter. I know it's like riffraff and annoying some, but like when it comes to these really important issues, this is where you're going to see the real shit. The people like who are there, and you're seeing the unedited footage. I mean, there were so many clips that would take like a CNN clip, a Fox News clip, and show you where it was cut off, and then show you the rest of the video where they cropped it, which is where all the madness happened. So it's, we really need to just educate people who, may be a little stuck in their ways, and just be like, hey, the world is moving. We have better technology that can show us the truth of the matter. And it's called Twitter.
So kind of on that note, still, for those who do have privilege, we've talked about performative allyship. You kind of, Dean kind of touched on that a little bit, but what do you guys want to see, I guess, allies do in terms of, like, I guess we have so many different like crises going on right now, but we have Black Lives Matter, but then we also have all these injustices happening against the LGBTQIA plus community. What can allies do, or what would you like to see allies do in terms of really to help actually advance some of these issues and injustices that are happening?
I mean,
so we can like move past them.
I think people need to own up to the anti-Black sentiments that so many different cultures that people grow up with. Even in the Latinx community, there's a lot of racist sentiments there that I've had to confront as well. It's not just white people, it's the Asian community, it's the Latinx community, there is an anti-Black sentiment there. And I think we as allies have to stand up to our parents and, our friends, people that we look up to, right? People that we should respect, because it's like people are so skewed in their viewpoints because they've grown up a certain way and have been indoctrinated with so much information that they never grew out of, because they never bothered to do their own research or live out of the experiences that they've already had, right? They don't have their diversified friend groups. They're not self-educating, right? So I think it's standing up to people in your own damn community, right?
100%.
One of the ways, absolutely. And that doesn't just go for, in defense of our Black brothers and sisters. That goes for even like the trans community. Gosh darn it. Like, I don't have any trans friends, and I have felt so ashamed these last few days.
At least that you know of.
Oh, true. Well, apparently, he's not my actual cousin, but my aunt's nephew, I believe, just came out as that he's going to start transitioning. So we're not technically family, but I suppose that's my closest connection, And I realized like, I've never had anything against the trans community, but I was never educated enough, or I never felt educated enough to speak in support of them, because I felt like I didn't understand what they were going through. But just the fact of self-educating and reaching out to people that are living that experience can help us, you know, just be more empathetic and use our voices for good, and our platforms, right? Social media is such a, you have such massive reach to so many different audiences. It's like, use it. Don't just sit there posting your damn booty pics and selfies, right? It's like, use your platform for activism and to talk about things that actually matter, you know?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I think that, like, when it comes to allyship, like, the people who are being oppressed or held back shouldn't have to be doing check-ins with you to make sure that you're doing your job as an ally. But what I will say is, one of these things that you guys were talking about is educating people. And while that's fine, that's a personal choice, I do believe, I just find it interesting that the population or type of person that has had the most access to education over generations is asking to be educated. I really just find that funny to me, especially in the age of the information highway. Girl, y'all had so much access to education that you're asking me about education when you literally stifled my family, generational, girl, I'm getting tongue-tied because I get so passionate about this, but you know, you stifled all that education, literally, and now you're sitting here, oh, I have no idea. What's going on? Mm-hmm. So you're asking me, who doesn't have as much family education as your family had the opportunity to give, to educate you on something that y'all perpetuate. It does not make sense. So much so, we had to create our own Black colleges because we couldn't go to your schools, okay? And we had to even fight for that. So white people really need to educate white people. I'm done with Black people educating white people. Like, I won't do it. I really say, unless we're having a discussion, I say, listen, go to Google. Go to Google first, look up some stuff, and then we can have a discussion. But don't come ask me, because I'm still learning as well. Just like you say you weren't a slave owner, yes, I wasn't a slave either. But let me tell you something, because I love when people say that. Oh, I wasn't a slave owner. I didn't do that. Oh, you weren't? Oh, that's great. Because guess who also wasn't a slave owner? The people right after those slave owners who then perpetuated Jim Crow, who then perpetuated redlining. They didn't own slaves either, but they kept abusing Black people. So what's the tea, sis? Because I'm trying to figure it out. They didn't own slaves, but they were doing the same thing that slave owners were doing. So you think that you're different?
Yes.
I love your...
You're not. You're not. So, and when it comes to that, we have to be very cognizant. And like, what's my girlfriend name? Danube. You know, when it comes to the minority community, what they need to understand is, and I hate to say this and sound aggressive, but to all the immigrants who come here, and this is no shade because I'm pro-immigration, girl, you would not be here if it was not for these Black bodies who built this country for free, okay? The door was closed, okay? The door, okay, was closed. And the reason that they were letting people here, the reason they were letting immigrants here, and mind you, for you to even come to the country, you had to be a model immigrant, right? Which means that you had to have a college education, or you had to come from some type of wealth. It was America's way of trying to show the world, look, we're not so bad. We have brown people from this part of the world coming, and they're a scientist, and they're an engineer, and they have all this money. So then when they got here, and you can get a store, and you can get this, then you played into white supremacy and started oppressing the people who opened the door for you.
Are you talking about
that's the cap on that, but what'd you say?
Are you talking about the Latinx community?
Oh, I mean, I have a whole post on my page about the Latinx community personally, just because I have a lot of friends who like to play in their Blackness. I like to call it playing a Blackness, because American culture is Black culture, period. From the music, from the food, from the pop culture, from the TV shows that we watch, from the lingo to our clothes, it's all Black culture. Like, no shade. Like
Black gay culture.
And Black gay culture at that. So, and really Black trans culture at that. Yeah. So what happens with me, I feel so personally about the Latinx community because I have a lot of friends who are of the Latinx community, and they love to play all day. A lot of them like to throw around the word nigga. Oh, but I'm Black. But then when it came up for Black issues,
cricket.
Where were you?
Yo, I noticed that so much.
Yep.
It was driving me
Wait,
crazy.
let me let Danube reply.
Right.
Yeah,
But I mean, I'm sorry that was your experience with your friend group, but my friend group, at least, I mean, they were out there during all of these protests, and
sure. I mean, listen, it's not in a vacuum. Let's be clear. This is not in a vacuum. And me having this opinion, I don't want it to be countered with but there is, because that's what white people do. They go, oh, but there is, we don't do this, or but I don't do this.
I'm trying to understand your point of view and what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, well,
I'm not taking it as it's aggressive or anything like that.
I don't want you to mistake my passion for aggression, because it's not. I'm just a very passionate person.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, first of all, I'm not going to be gaslit about the Latino community. I mean, Latinx history is full of anti-Blackness. I mean, we can look at any of the media outlets, and you don't see any people that look like me who are literally, they're just Latinx. You know what I'm saying? So like, they're indigenous people who are from this land, but they look like you. They're all on TV looking like you, but you go to their country and they look like me. So what's the tea? So when we have these conversations about the Latinx community being coinciding, or not even just coinciding, who are Black, you know, there's a bigger conversation, and they've been fighting for their rights. This is not new, but in the Latinx community, they didn't have the benefit of being American like Black Americans did. You understand what I'm saying? We were an imperialistic country. So the fact that when something went down in America, everybody heard about it. But if it went down in Costa Rica, the girls were like, what happened? Oh, they was fighting because what? Oh, okay. But so there's a difference there. So, but what we're not going to do is act like the Latinx community has held themselves accountable. They have absolutely not. They have absolutely not. And yes, there are allies out there, absolutely, sure. But they also like to play in Blackness. They like to benefit from the privileges of Blackness. And then when this conversation is had about Blackness, they are gone.
Can I say something? I want to make it clear for something. I don't want to say that this is just like, I understand where you're coming from, Dean, but I want to be very clear that this happens a lot with Asian Americans. This happens a lot in other cultures.
I touched on even saying like the other minorities also need to be like.
Yeah. I just want to make sure this is like a broad statement, not just.
Oh no, I'm just talking to her because I
even brought it up. I even was the one to bring up the fact that there is a massive anti-Black sentiment within my own community.
Yeah,
I understand.
Absolutely. No, I was just answering your question because you said, "Oh, did you mean the Latinx community?" And I was saying, "Yeah, I did mean the Latinx community." Because I have Latinx friends, but I don't only have Latinx friends who are Black. I have other friends who are brown and Black people from other, cultures or races as well. But I was just expressing my views on that, particularly, especially living in New York for so long. And like Mike said, you even noticed it as a white man. The kind of like how close we can be socially, and then when it came to this issue, it was kind of like, where are the Latin people? I had no shade. So I hate to sound like I'm bashing, but I'm not going to apologize.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Mike, I saw you were jumping in. I want to let you have Mike.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I have a lot of Latin friends. I'm part Latin as well. And the Latinx community really does like love Black culture. Like, let's be real, the music, the clothing, everything. I mean, and I really, really noticed a lot of like my Latin friends when everything started going down with Black Lives Matter. It was like crickets across the board. And I mean, I had to call one of my friends out on it and just was like, hey, just kind of want to know what's going on. Like, why have you been like completely radio silent on this? And it came down to just being like, I'm uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And, that was a tough struggle for, I feel like, a lot of individuals at the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement. And so it's hard because I feel like, we all know what like overt racism looks like, right? Like, we know if someone's being racist. And I think that sometimes people don't necessarily realize maybe like some things that they're saying are racist, And so it's like, when do you know where is the clear line to kind of come at someone and expect best intentions, right? Like that they're just like living in bliss, right? Ignorance is bliss, or that they are afraid or they don't know enough where they're going to speak up. And then when is the line when it's like, you're being a dick, So I think when it comes to our friends and our family, it's kind of knowing those individuals and who they are as a person. And there's definitely going to be times, just like throughout this time, when you really discover who is the like hidden trash in your life. You really do. Okay. But like, it's just important, like when any minority group, you know, is going through a tough time, you know, we need to say something. We need to stick up for everyone, you know. And just like you were just saying, it's every group that can be racist across the board towards each other. Doesn't Black, Asian, white, whatever, everyone can be racist. Everyone thinks they're the best. It's annoying. Like the whole thing's annoying. Like let's figure this out and just be like cool, which is so much easier said than done.
It is. Well, that got really intense for a little bit, but I think everybody brought up really valuable points to the entire argument, which is that privilege lies within, you know, each of the communities, as well as the broader scope of like the human race, and we all really need to do our part when it comes to speaking up for the minority groups or the other people in our lives that don't have the privilege that others do have. So
yeah, and I'm just gonna say something too, Dean. I had a talk with someone at my job about who's Asian American, and we had a conversation that was kind of similar, where I felt like they didn't really take a stance, and I was like, you know, Black people were very vocal about the way that Asian Americans were being treated during COVID-19, because you saw the videos of Asian Americans being spit on and all this stuff, and I saw on Twitter and everything, a lot of Black Americans were like trying to be there for them and raise awareness, and I was like, that's what we need now. Like we need that feedback. We need that awareness. We need that support from you. It's just important that everyone that's a minority, I don't care what you are, it's all a group thing, because this could happen to anyone. There's not just Black people getting killed by police. You know what I'm saying? But it might be the majority, but I'm just saying there are white people, there are children, there are women, there's a lot of people. So I think it's just important to make this, it's an every person issue, because you might not be Black, you might not be a person of color, but you know someone who is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's up to us to just always stand up for marginalized communities, right? People that are treated as like peripheral, whether it be, I mean, I understand that Black Lives Matter is happening right now. I mean, not right now. You get what I'm saying. I'm saying
we get you.
We need to support the groups that need our support.
Yeah.
We need to be there for each other. We can't just be this individualized thing. And I think the majority of people that didn't understand the Black Lives Matter movement was because, like all lives matter, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We're missing the point of, well, who are the people that are the most in danger right now, that are facing the most police brutality, the most mass incarceration, right? And leading this back to the LGBTQIA community, I mean, we need to be more vocal, right? And advocate more than just for our specific group, whether lesbian or trans or bi, you know, we all need to be there for each other in solidarity.
Yeah, I will say though as well, like this is an interesting thing that you were saying, like all lives matters, right? I do think as well that we do need to hold some accountability, whoop, there we go, in our Black community as well. Like, you know, yes, people keep bringing up the stats like Black on Black crime, which we know is fake, but because people kill people who they live next to, okay? So, and the numbers are very similar between white and white crime, Black on Black crime.
I want to say that too, that white people actually kill each other more than Black people. I wanted to note that.
Right, because we kill people who are in our lives, who are in proximity to us. So that being said, I will also say, everyone else needs to realize, white people or anyone else in any other community, need to realize that Black people also have been under this umbrella of white supremacy and also don't see the value and have to learn the value of other Black lives. We didn't just get born with some visor. We digested the same information that everyone else has been digesting. So I've had to learn how to love my own Blackness and find the beauty in who I am and the strength in my culture, and more importantly, not be ashamed of my people's history, but be emboldened by their genius of survival. You understand? Because this country would like for us to, they keep reminding us of all the things they've done to us. Like, they love to put out history books. You were a slave, you went through Jim Crow, you went through this, but rarely do you hear anything about our history in this country, about the inventions or anything else that we've made done to really progress
Wall
this
Street
country.
that they massacred.
Right, we don't hear about Tulsa, we don't hear about Rosewood, we don't hear about these.
She had to learn off of Watchmen, and I'm embarrassed to say it.
Yeah, so, you know, the thing is, we as Black people too, you know, Black lives has to matter to Black people as well. And we have to make sure that we are loving on each other as well, because we are being taught the same thing like everybody else. So it runs deep. And people think that just because we're Black, that we don't experience anti-Blackness. Yes, I know a lot of Black people who are constantly experiencing and fighting with the struggles of anti-Blackness. They're not beautiful enough, because especially in this industry, y'all know how the beauty standard works here, right? They love a Black person with a light eye or a thin nose, or you know, something that isn't stereotypically Black. Even though if you go through the continent of Africa, you will notice that all those people are Blacker than me, and they all look very different. But European beauty standards have set this trend, especially, I love these movies where they're like, look at this Black movie, and the lead is a light-skinned Black person, or a light-skinned Black person with a loose hair texture. And shout out to them, but let's be clear about the narrative that we're sending as well, about Blackness and about beauty, and about wealth and access or proximity for whiteness. So.
Yeah, I hope that Candace Owens listened to everything you just said, because I hope she loves herself.
That's a rough one. But I think also on that note, I think that runs straight down into respecting also like the Black trans community. I think that's very important. That's, you know, like Black women usually get shysted. So Black trans women are shysted just as far, if not further. So I think that's, you know, you bring up a really good point about appreciating within our own communities and learning to love ourselves. And that means loving the differences just within each of us, because we are all beautiful. I'm a Christian. I believe we're all made in God's image, and he made us exactly perfectly how he wants us to be, and however you grow up to become, he sees you in that light, and you are fine and beautiful how you are. And I think we need to learn to like love each other within that light that he's put us all in, and that goes across all minority communities. I think if we can learn to do that and love ourselves and each other, I think we can really get somewhere. Fortunately, I don't know if it'll be in this generation. I don't know if it'll be in our kids' generation after that, but hopefully further on. So,
yes, Sadé.
Yes. I feel like
that was beautiful.
A really simple way to break that down to people, I feel like, is, you know, everything you just said is 1000% on point. Like, it's so well said. But like, everyone's always like asks the question, what race are you, right? What race, what race, what race? And it's like, at the end of the day, we are all part of the human race, right? Like, so let's do it. If we do it like from an umbrella effect on the way top, it's like human race. And then that breaks down into various other races. And then from there, it keeps going, right? Everything funnels down and separates. But at the end of the day, we're all part of the human race. So it's like, why are we all against each other? I feel like we just need to really, to your point, just love on each other and support each other and accept each other, because we're all part of the human race. And I know that might sound like a little cheesy, but I feel like it's a really simple way to break it down for people who really don't understand why the difference is, why treating each other so differently and hateful is like absurd.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
It's so rough. I think most of us get that. I think it's just harder when, you know, white supremacists are the ones that don't want to understand or continue to perpetuate, or some who don't, allies who just want to get to the peace part don't understand that to get there we kind of have to rectify, which means we need to really understand each other, get on the same level, and then we can get to, you know, singing Kumbaya in circles together.
Yeah, I love this. I hope the white side of my family listens to this, because I'm tired of explaining to y'all. I'm tired of explaining to y'all. So
oh my God, you know, that's so Blair, are you biracial?
I am, but I'm Black.
Right. But you know, that's an interesting conversation, because I have I have a couple of best friends who are biracial, and most of them, it's very funny, right? Because for some reason, and not even for some reason, this is for historical reasons, Black people always know when someone is like biracial, but they know they're Black. However, one of my girlfriends, she looks, I guess if you didn't know, but I've always known she's like mixed with Black. But a lot of white people think that she's white. But it's funny because no Black person that she ever meets, even when we meet them at the same time, ever thinks that she's white. They always know that like, she's Black. But white people, for some reason, can't see that. And there's like this historical thing. So I guess my question to you is, how does all of this play on your conscience? I mean, obviously, you are brown skinned, so I don't know if anyone's ever actually been like, oh, you're biracial. But for your other biracial brothers and sisters, some of them don't look as Black. They look more ethnically ambiguous or even white. So how does that affect your psyche as far as being a person who is on like opposite, is built or literally between two different races who are having a little bit of a spat.
Well, I know this sounds crazy, but I try to use that for people that are very ignorant and be like, I know how it is because I grew up with people like you. I have people in my family who are like you. So I know I can tell for sure. I'm not saying that I can tell if you're racist more, I can tell if you don't understand more, but because I'm family with people and I grew up a certain way and grew up with some of these people, I know why they think this way and I know how they think this way, and trying to, explain to them that I don't want to go to my aunt's birthday party because all she has is white people that are going to go, and why I feel uncomfortable because I don't know who's going to be there. They didn't understand that 10 years ago, but they understand it now. When they asked me why I didn't want to walk in their neighborhood, in their conservative neighborhood that was predominantly white, after 9 p.m., they didn't understand. Now they do. So it's one of those things where I try to use it to my advantage. Like, how I was telling you this then? Well, this is what I meant. And it's starting to be like, wow, like they're starting to wake up. Some of them, I want to be very clear because I do have people in my family that live in the South who have said things like, Blair doesn't say he's like, for example, I said something on an interview where I said, let me sit my black ass down. And one of my aunts got offended. She had the nerve to get offended of it. She's white. And she called my grandma and she said, well, how come you keep saying black ass? He's black and white. How come he's not saying his black and white ass? Like, for one who says that.
Oh my God, shut
no
up.
one says that. But number two, it's like, no, I walk every day down the streets. I'm a black man. Because it's kind of crazy. Growing up, I didn't see color because I had a white mom and a black dad. So when I was first discriminated against, when someone rolled down their window when I was in the 5th grade, getting off the bus and called me the N-word, that's when it hit. Like, I'm black. And like for the rest of my life, that's what I'm gonna have to deal with. So it's like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what culture, it goes by what you look like at the end of the day. And my cousin True, we're the same amount. But his mom's black and his dad's white. So he has a lighter skin complexion. He has thicker hair, but he looks like a white man. So the way we grew up are two different ways because he has a lighter skin complexion.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's just about how you deal with it. And it's also about how your parents raised you. My parents taught me when I was very young about how I could be treated. And my dad was very honest with me about everything. They didn't hold things back because I went to a white school. They didn't hold things back because I had a white family. They were very cutthroat. This is what you're going to deal with. It don't matter. You can hang out with your cousins and all this stuff, but just know that you're going to grow up different than they are. And you're going to go through different things than they are.
Yeah.
And they're always having an advantage over you in this aspect. So you're going to have to work twice as hard. You're going to have to do this. And then being gay on top of it, it's just like, damn, I have people shook, but really surprised in a good way. I think
it's good you have like support. Yeah. I think it's good you have like the support, from your parents, educating you on how you have to go about your life, because you do have some parents that don't educate their kids or teach them like, hey, you recognize you may have a white mom, white black dad, but you look like this, you're going to experience these things. You don't have, at least I know of some people that didn't get taught those experiences, and they think, they kind of separate themselves from their blackness. And it's just kind of like, you have to realize who you are and stand up for who you are, not just a part of yourself. You have to like dig deeper and realize like, hey, I can't shut off one part of me. I have to embrace myself as a whole. I have to stick up for people who look like me, who may not look like me. I have to stick up for everybody, because at the end of the day, we are all human and we all need to come together, Like the separation and segregation and discrimination is not going to get us anywhere as a society. It hasn't for the past couple hundred years. It's not, we just have to all come together and realize we are all equal. Everybody needs to be treated the same. We are here for one thing, and it's to live. Like, we just have to uplift everybody. I think that's the most important part.
I want to ask Mike a question, because you mentioned being, Latin and white. Did you have any sort of experience, any somewhat similar to Blair? I mean, obviously, to me, you're like more fair, and I would say more white passing. But did you ever have to have any sort of conversation or anything like that?
No, never. Like and that's me just being completely candid with you guys. Like I never had to deal with any sort of discrimination for being Latin at all. But I mean, my discrimination comes from being gay. That's where I've gotten it. But it's interesting because so my mom's side is Italian, my dad's side is Latin, And we didn't really hang out really with my dad's side of the family growing up much, mostly just because they lived in other parts of the country, and my mom's family lived in our town with us. So my brother and I grew up Italian, you know, like that's what we knew, that was our culture, that was everything. And we both are more fair skinned. So I didn't really know that there was a difference in that community was even discriminated against for a really long time, which is bad. But again, it came down to education, and I was like, oh, I'm in that, and it hasn't ever affected me, so must not happen. But then, you know, you get older, you read a book, and you realize what the truth of this crazy world is.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Whoa, that was real. Well, you guys, I just have to say before we go, I just want to say thank you so much, because I didn't think I was going to get this much out of it. I was like, okay, it's me Pride. We're going to have fun. We're going to, you know, celebrate. But this became educational. It went from the Discovery Channel real quick.
You guys weren't lying about that, you know, self-study you've been doing.
Yes, yeah, and I love those, and I love those because it educates our listeners, and they kind of get a glimpse of, because, you know, we have listeners from everywhere, so it's kind of cool to have insight for someone that lives maybe in a very, you know, in a farm town or something, that doesn't know what diversity is because they don't see it. So to hear it, maybe they get some insight of, oh, so when I'm in this situation, this is how I handle it, or, oh, I never thought of this. So I think it's cool that we are from different places. We're all different ethnicities. So I love that about this whole conversation and the honesty of it all. It was very healthy. But before we go, I want to give you guys a time to kind of give people your Instagrams, where people can find you, your projects. So Mike, I'm going to start with you.
And any last minute thought to go along with it.
Yeah, last minute thoughts, please.
Minute thought, and then, you know, give us your handles.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start. I mean, my last minute thought is it goes back to just care about people, you know, just be cool, and just really try. Like, if you notice those moments in your life where, you know, you may not consider yourself to be a racist person, but like really notice in your walking life if there's something about you now that you're realizing is like, why am I thinking that way? You know, what has been triggered in me to think that way? Notice it in yourself and try to do the work within yourself to stop those toxic traits that maybe you didn't even realize were toxic. You know, I think that's something that everyone, doesn't matter where you come from, that everyone can do. As for my handle, you can find me on Instagram at Mike Fatone, and its last name is spelled like Fat One, and or Joey Fatone.
Fatone like Joey Fatone.
It's tearing up my heart, bitches.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Danube, where can we find you, girl?
Okay, cool.
And last thoughts.
Last thoughts. Okay, sorry. Cool. Well, I shouldn't start off that way. I should say, I think people need to do a lot of introspection during this time, since we're all still quarantined. Have those difficult conversations with yourselves and with your friends and your family. That's my opinion. I think that's a good way to start change from the inside. And also, I just want people to really think about, you know, who don't have who don't have the same experiences as people in the LGBTQ community or from certain ethnic groups, to just let it sink in that no one's human rights should be dependent on whether you agree or understand their lifestyle or their culture. That shouldn't be dependent on someone's opinion, you know? And yeah, and you also said upcoming projects. I'll be in a Netflix show pretty soon.
Hey.
I'm not allowed to talk about it, but it is premiering this year. And I have other projects that I can't talk about. But you can find me on Instagram. My handle is @1Danube, and you spell out the one, so O-N-E Danube. And that's how you can keep up with me.
Awesome. Dean.
Last thoughts. I just want to say this to only Black people who are watching, and just those people. I want to tell you something, especially to those young little Black gay boys watching or girls watching. People are going to tell you that you're angry. People are going to tell you that your lineage is of oppressed people and that you came from nothing. People are going to make you feel like your life isn't worth living and that you should shut up and that you should be in silence. And I'm just here to tell you that that is not true. That if they could have silenced us a long time ago, they would have, but they couldn't. And we are still here. And be proud of every moment. Be proud of your brown skin. Be proud of your wide nose, your big lips, your kinky hair. Be proud of the way you talk. Be proud of the way you laugh. You're not too loud. All of these things are what makes you beautiful. You are amazing. You are needed. You are wanted. And more importantly, you deserve life. So to all of you out there, to all my little Black and brown people out there who are experiencing what's going on right now, make sure that you take care of yourself. This isn't the first time we've seen ourselves. They keep saying it's because we have cameras. They've always had cameras. You can see us being lynched in the 1930s, 50s, 40s, and before them when cameras were out. They've always taken pictures. We're the only people they do this to, but that is not our history. They want to distract you from where we come from the land of Kush, from the kingdom of Kush, from the kings and queens who literally threw off economic systems because they were so rich in culture and in wealth. They don't want you to know that, but I want you to know that, okay? So that being said, you are loved and you're a beautiful baby. All right, so I'm not doing really, I'm not doing anything right now, but because of COVID, obviously the whole scene is kind of shut down. So I'm chilling, I'm working, I'm actually trying to go to law school because I feel like I want to just get a law degree.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
yeah, I know, right?
Come on, Elwoods. Come on, Elwoods.
Come on, Elwoods.
So from set to courtroom, from courtroom to set.
Ooh, Olivia Pope is shook. Ooh, Kerry Washington is shook.
Yeah, but my Instagram handle is my name, which is Dean Acree, so DANACREE. You won't find a lot on there because I've been a little hush right now, but I'll be back soon enough. But thank you guys so much for having me on this panel, and to all the rest of you on this panel, this has been a great discussion, and yeah, thank you guys.
Yes, Donovan.
Don't know how I can hold a candle to that, but all I want to say is just speak up and speak out. I feel like racism and discrimination can only thrive in silence, and silence is complacence. If you don't stand up for what's right, whenever you see it, you're part of the problem. You're part of the system that is keeping these voices quiet. And now is not the time to be quiet. This is the time to make as much noise as we can. So just be as loud and outspoken and driven and hardworking and designated to this cause as you can be, because that is the only way we're going to make a change. And I think that is the number one thing you can do. Like whenever you see injustice, just speak out on it. Because if you don't speak out on it, people who are working in the system, they're just gonna keep doing the same thing over and over again. If they're not caught up for their BS and it's not nipped in the bud, it's just gonna keep perpetuating the system over and over again. We've seen this growing up. How many principals have you known discriminating against Black students for doing the same thing that white students did, but got a much more, like, got a lot more in trouble than their white counterparts. It's just a part of the system. We just have to keep fighting and keep being loud and keep doing what's right. Yeah. And then my Instagram, DONOVXN, so kind of like Donovan with an X, 96. And then y'all can find me on Twitter. I'm on there a little bit more at Hercules, HERKQLEES.
Oh, I'm on Twitter. I love Twitter. What's your Twitter handle? I love Twitter.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that after the show. But I just want to say before we wrap up, Sadé, give your plug too before I end the show.
Oh yeah, of course. As always, I'm Sadé A. Spence on Instagram, Twitter, I think basically everything. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm Blair. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, everything at I am Blair T. And you can follow at Over the BS Show on our Instagram, Twitter. And also follow us on YouTube. And also, if you're listening to Apple Podcasts or anything along those lines, please give us a good rating. Give us those 5 stars in the comments. Let me know what you think about the podcast. The more people that send their reviews, the better that we do. And we're worldwide. We have people in Australia. We have people in Germany.
Yeah.
And in America, obviously America.
But I think those Perth and Adelaide, Australia.
Yes, we're in Australia, y'all. We're worldwide. We're worldwide hoes, okay? So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we're over the BS.